for Parshas Korach. We're going to speak out about a mitzvah asay deraisa which we have in this week's parsha, which is both an ancient mitzvah and has ancient application, and a mitzvah that is an inyan that is very negeya also bisman hazeh in a totally different context. And that is, the pasuk says, Va'ata uvanecha itach lifnei oel ha'edus v'shamru mishmartecha u'mishmeres kol ha'ohel. That the pasuk says that there is a mitzvah upon the kehanim that they have to watch and take care of the ohel. V'nilvu alecha v'shamru es mishmeres oel moed u'shmartem es mishmeres hakodesh. This mitzvah, this pasuk teaches us a mitzvah asay deraisa of watching the Beis Hamikdash. The Rambam in the Minyan HaMitzvahs counts this in mitzvah habais as a mitzvah asay deraisa, and this is the Rambam's lashon over there. Shetzivanu lishmor hamikdash. There is a mitzvah asay deraisa to watch the mikdash, v'lolechas svivai tamid, and to surround the Beis Hamikdash and to walk around it, l'chabdai, in order to honor the Beis Hamikdash, l'roimamai u'lagadlai, in order, this gives grandeur and covet to the Beis Hamikdash. V'hu amrai la'arayin, and this is what the pasuk means, va'ata uvanecha itach lifnei oil ha'edus, ratzalaymar atem tiyu l'fanai tavi. The Rambam continues, gedula l'mikdash. It is an honor to the Beis Hamikdash, sheyesh olav shomrim, that the Beis Hamikdash has guards. Ein adayme paletrin sheyesh la olav shomrim lepaletrin she'ein olav shomrim. There is no comparison to a palace that has guards around it to a palace that doesn't have guards around it. Any of you who were ever in England know that one of the most famous tourist stops in England is the changing of the guard. And that in Buckingham Palace, Keseder, there are guards there whose only tachlis is to once in a while kick their heels together and march back and forth, and their tachlis is to watch to watch Buckingham Palace. So the Rambam says that the Torah in fact says that there is such a mitzvah to have guards walking around the Beis Hamikdash, and this is a mitzvah asay deraisa of shmiras makom hamikdash. That is the ancient mitzvah which we're going to discuss tonight. What we're going to get into, and we're going to see that there is in fact a bridge between the two sugyas, is that today in Eretz Yisrael there is also guards who watch the Makom HaMikdash. And I don't mean only the Kaisel HaMaravi. I mean that there are guards, there are soldiers that have to watch what's called to watch the Temple Mount. Now this, as we will see, presents a terrible problem in halacha. Because as we will see, it is not so pashut that you're allowed to go up there at all. So Memela, tonight's shir is defining what was the mitzvah of Shmiras Hamikdash, Bisman Shebeis Hamikdash Hayakayim, and trying to define the problems and perhaps some of the heterim involved in today soldiers guarding what was the Makom Hamikdash, Bisman Shebeis Hamikdash Hayakayim. Starting with the ancient mitzvah of Shmiras Makom Hamikdash. Upon whom was this mitzvah incumbent? So the Mishnah in the Masechta Midas says that this mitzvah was incumbent upon the Kehanim and the Leviim. Actually, there were 24 guards who took part in this mitzvah of Shmiras Makom HaMikdash. 3 of those 24 people were Kehanim, 21, the remaining 21 were Leviim. And that's what the pasuk means. You're supposed to watch the Kehanim, the Nilvu Alecha and the Leviim are going to help you in this mitzvah of watching the Beis Hamikdash. There were 24 stations that the Mishnah in Talmud counts. 5, the Mishnah says, the 5 were Shari habais, another 4 of the Pinais habais. The Mishnah lists the 24 places, 3 of which were watched by Kehanim, 21 which were watched by the Levium. That is the mitzvah as defined in the Mishnah in Masechta Midas. Now, when is the mitzvah to watch? When does this mitzvah apply? So the Shita of the Rambam and the Smag and the Rash and Mishnayos is that the mitzvah of Shmiras Makam HaMikdash only applies at night. During the day, there is no mitzvah to watch the Makam HaMikdash, to watch the Beis HaMikdash. So the Minchas Chinuch, among other Achreinim, is bothered why this is in fact the Rambam Shita. Because since we've already said, and the Rambam speaks it out explicitly, that the tachlis of these guards was not to prevent robbers. This is not a matter of security, but this is a matter of kavod. That it's an honor to the Beis HaMikdash that there are guards surrounding it always. If it's a matter of kavod, then it stands to reason that there should be guards there both during the day and during the night. If you go again lahavdil to Buckingham Palace, you have guards there during the day, I think also at night, but certainly during the day, because it's an inyan of kavod. So therefore the Minchas Chinuch asks, Acharei shezehu shmira shel kavod minolei shalei shamu gam b'yom. That is the Minchas Chinuch kasha. Why does the Rambam say that this mitzvah of watching the Beis HaMikdash only applies at night? So the Tiferes Yisrael in Mishnayos attempts to answer this question by saying that in the Beis HaMikdash there was always activity during the day. The Kehanim went ahead and did the Avodah throughout the whole day. So the Mela Tainis, the Tiferes Yisrael, the Kehanim that did the Avodah and the Beis HaMikdash during the day, they in essence provided also the Shmirah. They did dual jobs. They did the Avodah, but having people going around doing the Avodah was in effect also Shmirah. In Buckingham Palace, again, lahavdil, it could be a long time for the Queen can go to Windsor Castle for 3 months at a time, and nobody's pushed there in Buckingham Palace. So therefore, maybe there you need guards during the day. But Zok the Tiferes Yisrael, lahavdil in the Beis HaMikdash, during the day you always have guards. You always have the Kehanim. It's only at night where the Avodah ceases to go on. It's only the Ivar Mukhtarim HaYukreven Kol HaLayla. That's why you need Kehanim at night. However, the Shita of the Mefaresh in Masechta Tamid is that in fact there is a mitzvah to have the Shomrim Bein Bayayim Ubein Balayla. And there is a stickle smach to the Shita of the Mefaresh from the pasuk of Al Chamesayich Yushalayim Hifkadeti Shomrim. We all know the song Kol Hayayim V'Chol Halayla. So Mamela, that the stickle is smach that there was a mitzvah of Shmira Kol Hayayim V'Chol Halayla. The Mishnah goes on to explain in Masechta Midas that they had a very interesting Mishnah, a very interesting halacha, that they had a very good system of making sure that guards did not fall asleep. The Mishnah in Masechta Midas says that there was a person, and his title was the Ish Har Habais. He was the person who kept guard. He was the shomer on the shomrim, and he had a torch which he used to walk around at night, going from station to station, making sure that the Levium weren't sleeping on the job. And the Mishnah says in Masechta Midas that if he found anybody sleeping on the job, he had a unique way of waking him up, and that was to put the torch to his beged. And that will do wonders to get somebody out of a sleep. Matter of fact, the Mishnah goes on in Masechta Tamid and says that in Yerushalayim hayu aimrim ma kol ba'azara. They used to hear shrieks sometimes at night in Yerushalayim, and they asked, Ma kol ba'azara, what are those shrieks? And the Mishnah says, Kol ben Levi loike ubegadav misrafin sheyashen al mishmarasai. These were the shrieks of Levium who woke up to find their pants on fire, kipshutai ukamashmayai, and the Mela, they were mamas screaming, and this was their way of keeping guards on duty. So we've defined that there is a mitzvah saseh deraisa of watching the Beis Hamikdash. It is incumbent upon the Kehanim and the Leviim. Most Rishonim hold that the mitzvah is only balayla and not the yom, except for the Mefaresh. They had a unique system of making sure that the guards did their job. And finally, one more shaila, and that is, does this mitzvah apply bisman hazeh? Now, we would obviously jump to the conclusion and say that this mitzvah does not apply bisman hazeh, because ba'avanisenu harabim, that we do not have a Beis Hamikdash, therefore there would be no point in having guards watching the Beis Hamikdash. However, the Avnei Nezer in Yeredeya, Chelik Beis, Simin Taf Mem Tes, suggests that perhaps there is another reason for having Shomrim even today that there is no Beis Hamikdash. And that is because, as we will see in detail in a few minutes, there is an Isser for a person who is a Tameh to go up to what is the Mokum Hamikdash. When we go to the Kaisel Ma'aravi, that is not the Mokum Hamikdash. That is merely an outer wall. It is the outer western wall that used to surround the habais. But we're not anywhere near that. We're near the habais, but we're certainly not on the habais. We're going to see soon that there is usher for a tameh to go to the habais. So the Avnei Nezer tainas that today there should be a mitzvah of appointing shomrim around and surrounding the har habayis to ward off people, to make sure that no one goes up to what is the Mokum Hamikdash. The Avnei Nezer writes, Yesh lefarish hashmira shelo yavai sham misha aser lavai, or shelo yavai zor lehechal, or that a zor shouldn't go into the Mokum Hamikdash. Ukein shmiras tuma. V'zeh havi kovad hamikdash shaloi kol harotzi likones hikones. V'zeh shayich af bizman hazeh. So the Avnei Nezer writes that this is even applicable even bizman hazeh. So the Avnei Nezer suggests that the mitzvah of watching the Mokum Hamikdash would apply today, and Rav Yechiel Michal Tukachinsky in his Sefer Ir HaKodesh V'Hamikdash brings a shita called the Mishkanais La'abir Yaakov that says in effect the same thing. To this shita, Rav Yechiel Michal takes strong exception and says there is absolutely no mitzvah negeya even bizman hazeh. Why? And he says so for a number of reasons. Number one, he says that the shmira, as the Rambam writes, is a shmira lepaletrin. It is a shmira for the palace. That's how the Rambam defines the mitzvah. Zok Rav Yechiel Michal, today, b'avanisenu harabim, there is no palace. There is a churban instead of a palace. How can you tell me that the mitzvah of shmiras Mokum Hamikdash, which is the shmira of the Mokum Kavod, applies today when there is no palace? Moreover, he says, how can you tell me that there's a mitzvah of shmira, if today is shuhalim holchuba? Bisman hazeh, that where the Beis Hamikdash once stood, is literally a mosque, the famous Mosque of Omar, and Arabs are Keseder going in and out, which we I don't know if we have any, we certainly maybe have the right, but we certainly don't stop them. So the whole thing would seem like a farce. We're going to let the Arabs go, and we can't prevent them, or we don't prevent them, and on the other hand, we're going to say there's a mitzvah saseh deraisa of shmiras Mokum Hamikdash. So his conclusion is, and this is how most shitas in fact hold, that even though it is forbidden for a tameh to go up to the Mokum Hamikdash, but the mitzvah saseh deraisa, which we delineated tonight, does not apply today, and that is in fact the shita of the chinuch, mitzvah zu neheges bisman shebeis Hamikdash hayakayim. Now let us get into somewhat of a different area, and that is, we've already mentioned that it is usher for a person who is tamei tumas meis. A person who is tamei tumas meis, it is usher for him to go up to the Mokum Hamikdash. Today, in effect, Rabbi Sai, we are all tamei tumas meis, because we have all some way come into contact either ba'ayel or through other means. We are all in effect tamei tumas meis. If we are tamei tumas meis, it is forbidden for us to go up to the Mokum Hamikdash. You will ask me, that there is no Beis Hamikdash today, there is no Azara, there is no Kodesh, there is no Kodesh Kodshim. So why should it be usher for a Tomei to go up Bisman Hazeh, the Beis Hamikdash is Batel? So to this, the Rambam writes in Perek Vav, Mihilchas Beis HaBechira, Voloma ani omer b'migdash v'Yushalayim kedusha rishayna kidsha lasid lavai. The Rambam Shita is that the kedusha rishayna, the original kedusha with which the Beis Hamikdash was niskadesh, is still in effect bisman hazeh, even though there is no Beis Hamikdash. The Rambam writes why. Zot the Rambam lefi shekedushas Hamikdash v'Yushalayim mipnei hashchina. The Shechina Eina Betela. The Rambam says that as opposed to the Kedusha of rest of Eretz Yisrael, which was only Machmas, the conquest, there you can tell me that once the conquest is batal, so the Kedusha is batal as well. But why was the Makam HaMikdash, why does the place that the Beis HaMikdash stood, why is that Kadosh? So the Rambam says why? Because the Shechina was there. V'hashchina eina betela oilamitz. It is the Rambam's Shita that the same Kedusha that the Beis HaMikdash had, Bisman Shebeis Hamikdash Kayim, that Kedusha is in effect even Bisman Hazeh. And therefore, just like it was usher for a person who was ritually Tameh to go up to the Makam HaMikdash when there was a Beis Hamikdash, that Isser is still in effect even Bisman Hazeh. I must point out that the Ravid, Afen Ort over here in Perek Vav, Milchas Beis HaBechira, the Ravid argues with the Rambam. And the Ravid says, Kach nigla li miseid Hashem liyireyav, that I have a Kabbalah, I have it straight, Kavayochel from the Rebbeinu Shalom, that the Kedusha is bato, and therefore Zok the Ravid, lefichach hanichnas l'sham, nichnas ato, ein bo kores. The Ravid argues and says that even though in the time that the Beis Hamikdash was standing, a person who was ritually tamei, who went into the Makam Hamikdash was chayiv kores, the Ravid Shita is that doesn't apply Bisman Hazeh because the Kedusha is batal. Now there are many Achronim that say that even though the Ravid disagrees with the Rambam, that is only that the Ravid holds that there is no Isser Kores, but even the Ravid is Maida that it is still Asr Midoraisa, or at least Midorabanan, to go up to the Makam Hamikdash. Lahalacha Lamaisa, the Mishnah Brura, and the Magen Avraham, and the Bir Hagra, all paskin halacha Lamaisa, that it is forbidden Bisman Hazeh for a person who is Tameh, which means virtually everybody and anybody, to go up to what was the Makam Hamikdash. Now, what exactly are we talking about when we say it is forbidden to go up to the Makam Hamikdash? So for here we have to turn to a Rambam in Perek Zayin, Mehilchas Beis HaBechira. Now, if you've ever been to Eretz Yisrael, you know that above the Makam of the Kosel is what's called the Har Habais, the Temple Mount. The Har Habais occupied an area of Tov Kuf Amma al Tov Kuf Amma, an area of 500 Amis by 500 Amis. Now there were different levels of Kedusha as you got up to the Har Habais, until you got closer to the Beis Hamikdash, until you got into the Beis Hamikdash. And the Rambam in Perek Zayin of Hilchos Beis HaBechira, based on the Mishnais and Masechta Midas, delineates and says who is allowed to go up to the Makam Hamikdash and how far is he allowed to go. The Rambam says, Har Habayis Mekudesh Mimeno, that the entire Har Habayis, the entire Temple Mount, is more holy than the rest of Yerushalayim. She'ein Zavin, the Zavais, Nida, the Yoldais, Nichnasin L'Sham. A Zav or a Zava, or a woman who's a Nida, or a woman who has just had a baby, is not allowed to go up to the Har Habayis. But Umuter lahachnis hameis atzmo lahar habayis ve'ein tzarach lomar tamei meis shehu nichnas l'sham. A tamei meis is allowed to go up to the Har Habayis. Only a Nida, a Zava, and a Yoledes, and a Zav can't go up, but a mace could go on. That is the Etzem mountain upon which the Beis Hamikdash sat. The Rambam continues, Hachil L'Kudish Mimenu, which means, as you go further up the Har Habayis to the place that the Beis Hamikdash was, there was an area called the Chil. The Chil was literally, before the wall of the Beis Hamikdash, you had like a partition, like a mechitza with holes in it, that was called the Soreg. Between the Soreg and the outer wall of the Beis Hamikdash was an area called the Chil. It was 10 amos wide. The Rambam says that place, since it's closer to the center, is more kadosh. And the Rambam says, Ein akum b'tamei meis u'boel nida nichnasim l'sham. If a person is a tamei meis, or a guy, or a boel nida, none of these people are allowed to go into what was the makam called the chil, which means none of us can go up today to what was the chil. We could make it up to the Har Habayis because a tamei meis is allowed there, but we can't go anywhere beyond the chil. Then the Rambam continues, Ezras Nashim is Mukudeshes min achil. The first entranceway into the Beis Hamikdash was called the Ezras Nashim. That's even more kadosh, and ein tful yom nichnas l'sham. And Ezras Yisrael Mukudeshes mi Ezras Nashim. The tamei shenichnas l'sham chayiv kares. Once you already go into the spot that the Beis Hamikdash stood, beyond the Ezras Nashim, into what was called the Ezras Yisrael, there you are talking that if a person goes there, bisman hazeh, he is chayiv kares. It is the same isser as being a machal Shabbos, as eating chametz b'Pesach, as being boil a nida. If you go up to the makam hamikdash past the Ezras Nashim, you are chayiv kares midaraisa. That is the Rambam Shita, because as we explained, the Rambam holds that the Kedusha Shechina is not Batel, and even though the Ravid argues, but we already said that the Halacha L'Maisa, the Bir Hagra, the Magen Avram, and the Mishnah Berurah all paskin that it is usher, like the Rambam Shita, to go up to the Makam Mikdash today. The question therefore becomes, and this is a very serious problem, if any of you have ever been to Eretz Yisrael, and particularly you've ever been to the Kosel, you know that you cannot get into the Kosel without going through the strictest of security. Any woman who's carrying a pocketbook, the pocketbook will be searched. You're carrying any type of bag or anything, they'll search you. Every single entrance to the Kosel HaMaravi, which I was Zeicha Baruch Hashem this year to see, is guarded. If you think that that's the only place they are, and they're not on the Har Habayis, you're making a mistake. The Israeli government is not about to allow all those Arabs who are going into the Mosque of Omar as lahavdil, as religiously as we go to the Kosel, to go without security. And therefore, the Israeli government has guards who patrol the Makam HaMikdash. If that's the case, these guards have a very serious problem, because they are in effect going to places which it is usher midaraisa to go to, because all these guards are virtually Tamei Mesim. And not only that, there are places that they can go up there that they will be chayiv kares. So what do we do about this? So I saw two very interesting tshuvas that deal with this problem. Now, one of the tshuvas suggests, both of them in effect suggest, that to go ahead and to say merely that it is also to go up to the Har Habayis is incorrect. Because as we have already stated, it is mutter to go up to the Har Habayis, at least some places of the Har Habayis. And in effect, the Rambam writes Mufurish in Perek Zayin, Halacha Zayin, is Ilgas Beis HaBechira, Even though the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed today, the Rambam does not say no one can go up to the Har HaBayis. The Rambam in fact says you're allowed to go up to the Har HaBayis, but you shouldn't go beyond the point that you're allowed to go. And when you're up there, the Rambam writes how you should act. But implicitly we see from this Rambam that the Rambam in effect said that you are allowed to go up to the Har HaBayis. So Rav Zundel Grossberg, writing in a Torah journal, says, we see from this Rambam that the Rambam is in effect saying that you can go up to the Har HaBayis. Except, as he right away points out, there's a tremendous difference between the Rambam and you and me. And that is because the Rambam knew exactly what the situation was up there, and he knew exactly where the hill began and where you couldn't go, and therefore the Rambam could in effect go up there. But if a person wants to say, why should I stop at the Kosel? Anybody can go daven at the Kosel. I'm going to go closer up. I'm going to go up to the Har HaBayis. So technically, the person would be allowed to go up to certain places of the Har HaBayis. But Rav Grossberg says that any person, sheyesh lo moach b'kod kado, shouldn't go up there because he's taking a risk, because he doesn't know precisely how far he can go up and how far he can't go up. Over Zok Rav Grossberg, what about the Chayal, who has an order to go up there? And it's not going up there stam to be frum and stam to chaparayim a better davening. He's going up there because he has to go up there. What about him? What is he allowed to do? So Rav Grossberg suggests that he is allowed to go up to the Har HaBayis, but to make sure that he does not go beyond the wall, because once he goes beyond the wall that's up there, he's already getting close to the mokum of the chil. And a tamei meis is not allowed to go up to the chil. So he says a soldier would be allowed to go up to the Har HaBayis to a place that he is certain that the chil does not begin, provided that he goes to the mikveh. Because even though tumas meis doesn't go off unless we have a parah aduma, and today there's no way of being metaher from tumas meis, but there are other tumas that a person could have. He could be tumas keri. There could be other tumas that he has. So therefore, to go up to the Har HaBayis, you have to be noki, even if you can't be noki from tumas meis, but you can be noki for the other things. So he paskin that a soldier that has to go up can go up to the Har HaBayis, but not past or anywhere near the chil, but he has to be taivel in a mikveh beforehand. And that mikveh has to be as kosher as a mikveh which we necessitate for a woman to go be taivel in. We've heard that? No. Not for where he's going to go. Now, in another tshuva, a fellow named Rav Shilo Raphael wants to go a step further. And he wants to suggest that you know why an Israeli soldier would be allowed to go up to the Mokum HaMikdash? Because he suggests that since for security reasons that area up there has to be secure, so a person has the right to go up there al satam of pikuach nefashos. Because for instance, why is a soldier allowed to work to do malachos on Shabbos? Because there's a heter of pikuach nefashos. So he suggests that guarding the Temple Mount is in effect security of the nation. Security of the nation is pikuach nefashos, and we know that we can violate Isurim for pikuach nefashos. I must point out right away that even this Rav Raphael does not go so far as to say that the soldier is allowed to go up to the Azara or to the Ezras Noshim or to the Ezras Yisrael. He is not ready, it seems, to be Matir and Isser Kares for Pikuach Nefashos. He himself doesn't seem to say, to be so confident, to call this Pikuach Nefashos to be Matir and Isser Kares of going to the Makam HaMikdash. How far does he go? He says that a soldier is allowed to go up, make sure don't go beyond the Chil, and you also have to have Tvilah, because we try to minimize Yisurim as much as possible. So thank you. So what does he do with his Gevaldik Heter of Pikuach Nefashos? If in effect he says you can't go beyond the Chil, you cannot go into the Makam HaMikdash, you have to have Tefillah anyway. So what is the grace Heter that it's Pikuach Nefashos? So he wants the Taina. There is an Afkamina. Because the Rambam writes in Perek Zayin that one of the prohibitions of going into the Makam HaMikdash was you could not go into the Makam HaMikdash with shoes. If you want to go into the Har Habayis even, the Rambam writes, Ve'ezehu hi yirasai lo yikanes adam lahar habayis b'makloi o b'minoloi shebaragla. If you go up to the Har Habayis, you must take your shoes off. So if we want to permit this Israeli soldier who goes to the mikveh first, and we warn him, don't go too far up the mountain, don't go to the Makam Achil, but we also have to tell him to do one thing: take his shoes off. Now, when's the last time you saw a guy do guard duty in his bare feet? Bifrat in Eretz Yisrael, where there are so many there's so much stones in Eretz Yisrael, it's mamish almost impossible to walk around without your shoes on. So comes Rav Yitzchak Raphael and says that because since watching the Makam HaMikdash is in effect Pikuach Nefashos, and since it's hard to go ahead and to do guard duty in your bare feet, therefore he excuses the soldier from going ahead and watching and the Beis HaMikdash in his bare feet, and he can wear shoes. Else what? I'll speak Pikuach Nefashos. Ad kan, what Rav Raphael wants to say. So Rav Grossberg, writing in the Hamayon, saw this shtickel's Torah from Rav Raphael, and he wants to argue. He takes issue with this psak. Why? Because the Minchas Chinuch says, Nirek Tzas, the Isser Halicha Bahar Habayis ben Yom Kippur. And since the shoe that is usher to walk in on Yom Kippur, or the only type of shoe that you can use for chalitza is a shoe that's made out of leather, therefore Rav Grossberg Tainez that you don't have to come on to let the soldier walk around in shoes. Why? Because we could let him walk around in sneakers. Because just like by Yom Kippur, the halacha is sneakers are mutter. Therefore, you don't have to tell me and say the soldier can't do guard duty in his bare feet. Therefore, Pikuach Nefashos, we have to go ahead and let him walk around with shoes. No, the guard has to be toivo, can go up to the Makam HaMikdash, but not past the Chil. But he must wear sneakers. Now, another couple other points. Derech Agav, as an aside, I would just like to tell you over an interesting psak that I once saw. I was once in Seattle many years ago as a bocher, and it came time for the Birchas Kayanim. And there was a Yekish mentioned who was a Kayan, and he went ahead, he went out of the shul before Duchanin, he came back in with sneakers on, and he went up and he Duchaned with sneakers. I was a kainoidik, a yeshiva bacher in those days, but with the grest of derech eretz, which I thought, I went to him and I explained to him, Mr. So-and-so, the reason that a kohen is not allowed to duchen with shoes on has nothing to do with leather or not leather. It has to do, as the Gemara says in Megillah, that the shoelace may untie and the kohen will bend down while he's duchening to retie his shoe, and people will see that he's crouching down while the others are duchening, and they'll think that he's a ben gerusha ben chalutza. And therefore I told him it doesn't make a difference, sneakers or not sneakers. The halacha is totally in laces, and his tennis shoes were very filled with laces. So he turns to me in a huff and a puff, and he says, "This is the way they were noig in Frankfurt am Main, and I don't know what I'm talking about, and leave me alone." So I wasn't this spoiled that he perhaps didn't know the halacha, but I could not figure out how could it be that in Frankfurt am Main, Ir Ve'ein Yisrael, that they certainly knew what they were doing, that they were duchen in sneakers. So many years later, I found that Rav Shmuel Shulman says in one of his svarim that since, as we see tonight, a sneaker does not have a din of a shoe, not legabi chalitza, not legabi Yom Kippur, and not legabi going up to the Makam HaMikdash, therefore sneakers were never included in the gzeira of you're not duchen with shoes, and therefore a person could in fact duchen with sneakers on, and this is the mocker of Minik Frankfurt. So I found a yishuv. That's an aside. Getting back to our chayol, we've already said that our chayol, we will let him go up to the habais. He has to be careful not to go past the hill. He's allowed to he should wear sneakers and he should not wear shoes. But he's not finished yet. While he is on duty, he is not allowed to eat, because you're not allowed to eat in the habais. He's not allowed to drink, because you're not allowed to drink in the habais. He's not allowed to spit, because you're not allowed to spit on the habais, and perhaps the most difficult thing for an Israeli, he's not allowed to smoke, because you cannot smoke on the habais. And zok the Aruch HaShulchan Ha'asid, he's not allowed to talk either, because you're not allowed to talk. These are our halachas in Moira Migdash. That's the way it's supposed to be in a shul. Unfortunately, we know how we act, but in the Makam HaMikdash, no eating, no spitting, like the subways, lahavdol. No drinking, no sleeping, and no talking. So Memela, Hayetzi Midvareinu, is that the Chayol can go up, make sure not to go past the Makam Achil. He has to wear sneakers, according to Rav Grossberg. He can't eat, drink, spit, smoke, or talk. So when I was preparing this year last night, I called up Rav Schlanger, who's familiar with the minhagim of Eretz Yisrael, and I said, what do Fruma soldiers do l'mais in Eretz Yisrael? So at that very moment, Rav Bergman, who is Rav Shach's Eidim, was in his house, and he asked him Vifirtman, and he said that l'maisa, in effect, there are no Fruma Yidden that ever go up for guard duty on the habais. With all the heter and with all the lumdus, no one's going to go ahead and take the chance of knowing where to stand and where he can't go, here he can't go, so they just don't do it. There are soldiers that in effect go up there. So for them, we can find a mokum heter, at least a mokum to be sendachan, and say that perhaps it is in need of sakonis nefashis, and therefore even though they are tmei mesim, and it's best not to go over there, but at least we can't condemn them and say maybe they have a heter of pikuach nefashis. But in effect, if a former soldier would want to go up there, he would have to go up there, as we said, after tefillah, make sure not to go where he's not supposed to go, and he has to go up there with all the halachas of the mitzvah of Moira Mikdash. Our parsha begins with the famous words,
literally translated means, and Korach took. So all the Mefarshim, as far back as the Gemara, are bothered by the expression Vayikach Korach. That's a very strange lashon. What did he take? Rashi brings Vayikach Korach lokach atzmai lemachleikus. He went and he pick the fight. Everybody has to deal with the terminology Vayikach Korach. Omar Reish Lakish says in Sanhedrin Daf Kuftes, Omar Reish Lakish Shalokach Mekach Ra La'atmai. You know what it means, Vayikach Korach? Lokach from Lashon to buy. Lokach Mekach Ra La'atmai. He bought a bad deal. In effect, he bought a lemon. That's what it's saying. Lokach, Vayikach is Miloshin Kicha, which means to buy. And what does it mean? Vayikach Korach, he bought something, but he really made a real bad deal. Lokach Mekach Ra, a bad Mekach, a lemon. Now Reish Lakish is trying to solve a problem. Reish Lakish is trying to tell us, what does the Lashon Lokach mean? In effect, he doesn't make it any better. What does it mean? He Lokach Mekach Ra La'atmai. He bought it bad. He didn't buy anything over here. He didn't get anything. In effect, he lost everything. He lost himself. He lost his rechush. He lost. So what is Reish Lakish Fadini? What's he answering? Lokach Mekach Ra. He took a bad deal. Where's the bad deal? Where's the lemon? Where's the bad price for not good merchandise? Where's the Mekach Ra that Reish Lakish seems to say Korach took? So in order to paren for this, we have to understand another aspect of the incident of Korach. Rashi brings Voloi Tipshim Hayu. Weren't these people, the 250 people together with Korach, weren't they in effect fools? The Korach shepikeach haya ma ra l'shtus zeh. And Korach, he was a wise man, Korach. How did he do such a stupid thing? What do we mean such a stupid thing? Because Moshe Rabbeinu warned them. There's 250 people. The Rebbeinu Shalom is only going to choose one person. Your odds of being the one person that the Rebbeinu Shalom are going to choose is 1 in 250. I mean, you have to be a fool to take such odds. I mean, there is a game called Russian roulette. What's Russian roulette? You have 6 bullet things. You only put in 1 bullet. So 5 out of the 6 don't have bullets. You spin the revolver. You put it to your head. You're foolhardy, but you're not crazy, because 5 out of 6 chances you're not going to get your head blown up. That's Russian roulette. Would any person play Russian roulette that really there are 5 bullets in there, and there's 1 blank, and then you spin the thing, and your chances are, no fool would do that. So stell sich vor, you take a Gatling gun with 250 notches in there. 249 have bullets. 1 is blank. Who's going to spin the thing and take that chance? Nobody. You have to be crazy. Correct? Rashi. Pikesh Korach. That he was a Pikeach. Ma'ro l'shtus there. How could he do such a stupid, foolhardy thing? Zok Rashi. Elo'ena hit osai. Lo shalshalet gedula oimeres himenu. Because Korach, who was Zeicha at that moment to Ruach HaKodesh, saw that he was destined that from him would come out a great people. Shmuel Sheshokol Kamesh Rabbeinu. Shmuel Hanavi was a descendant of Korach. Shenema Moshe V'Aaron B'Koino V'Shmuel B'Kor Shmoi. The Esrim V'Arba Mishmoris Oimni B'nei Bonav Kula Mishnabim V'Ruach HaKodesh. 24 Mishmoris of people who were blessed with Ruach HaKodesh. That's hundreds of people. And they were all his descendants. So he said to himself, I'm Taka special. Can I be the one out of 250? Yes, I can. Because I'm going to be the progenitor of Shmuel Hanavi. I'm going to have hundreds of people who are Bali Ruach HaKodesh coming out of me. I must be special. So Mamela, Korach, seeing this in Ruach HaKodesh, went ahead and took the chance because he held that he, Hakeh, is going to be the one out of 250. Because look which Gedolim, Shmuel Hanavi, is going to come out of me. That's where his mistake. Of effective the kasha. Good, Korach was wrong. But why was he Zeichet Hakeh to Shmuel Hanavi? Wie kommt das Hakeh der Azar Rasha like Korach, who the Gemara says is neither in the Gehenna every 30 days? How does Korach come off having an Henachol like Shmuel Hanavi? And how does Korach have hundreds of people who are Bali Ruach HaKodesh if he was such a Rasha? So Yosef Salant brings from Yakirei Yerushalayim a Geraldige Chiddush, that you know how Korach was zeichet to such kinder. Because if a person does a davar tov in this world, the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to have to give him schar. And Korach did a gewaldige thing in this world. You know what he did? He made a gewaldige Kiddush Hashem, and he proved Moshe Rabbeinu right. Korach, by standing up and challenging Moshe Rabbeinu's nevuah, and by and demanding a raya from the Rebbeinu Shalom, Korach in effect made a gewaldige Kiddush Hashem. Because everybody saw that Moshe Emes, the Torah Emes, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is right, and it was a gewaldige Kiddush Hashem. Nobody after that doubted Moshe Rabbeinu's leadership. Nobody after that doubted the Rebbeinu Shalom. That is in effect a gewaldige Kiddush Hashem. It was for that. Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'kalpeach schar kol beria. The Rebbeinu Shalom always gives a person his due payment. His payment was as poorly intended as he was. And he did not do it for Shem Shamayim, and he did not do it for the right reason. But nevertheless, he caused the Kiddush Hashem. He caused Moshe Rabbeinu's nevuah to be established. For that, he was zeicha to Shmuel Hanavi and Bali Ruach HaKodesh. If that's the case, we can now understand what Reish Lakish means. Lokach mekach ra la'atzmai. We can now understand what it means he did a bad deal. Because yes, Korach was zeicha to Shmuel Hanavi. Yes, he was zeicha to all these children, Bali Ruach HaKodesh. But what was the price that he paid? He paid for it with his life, with his Olam Hazeh, with his Olam Haba, with all his rechush, with all his property. He paid for it. Ein Achinami, he was zeichet to have a Shmuel Hanavi and to have all of these Bali Ruach HaKodesh. But how did... to reward him. But what is the price that he paid? He paid a terrible price. And that's what Reish Lakish means when Reish Lakish says, Lokach mekach ra la'atzmai. That Korach took something. Yes, he bought something. You know what he bought? He bought gewaldige Enefa. He bought gewaldige descendants. He bought a Shmuel Hanavi. He bought Bali Ruach HaKodesh. But was it worth the price? The price with which he paid for this was his own life, his Olam Hazeh, his Gashmias, his Ruchnias, everything. That is what Reish Lakish means when he says, Lokach mekach ra la'atzmai. Sure, he was zeicha to all these things, but was it worth the price? The answer is obviously, it is not worth the price. And that's what Reish Lakish means when he says that Lokach mekach ra la'atzmai.
This year was presented by Rav Yisachar Fran Shlita.